Junkyard Enterprise, created by Arthur Rumrill. Chapter 1, Dirtside. The dry heat of the New Mexico desert in 2027 carried the scent of ozone and sagebrush. On a cracked concrete slab that used to be a military test site, Dan Fogal stood looking up at a monstrosity of his own making. "It is called the Starship Boobieprise," he declared to his girlfriend, who was quietly giving him that side-eye glance as if she was a bit worried he was about to start telling his dad jokes again. The name was spray-painted in sloppy neon pink letters across the side of a Frankenstein's monster of a rocket. Built out of scrapped stainless steel panels, salvaged commercial valves, and a pair of heavy solid fuel boosters of Dan's own creation, powdered rubber and liquid oxygen stabilized with Wharton gas for a cleaner, steadier burn, it looked more like a banged-up, dirty 50-meter shipping container than a spacecraft.
"Probably the most non-aerodynamic thing I have ever seen,"
remarked his girlfriend as she stared at the abomination of flight.
"Thing is more likely to detonate and kill us both before we get anywhere near low Earth orbit."
Dan pursed his lips in mock thought and glanced down toward his tiny partner, reflecting on his real motivations. What made him want to go into space wasn't glory or money. It was a deeper itch, not a physical one. That would have been too easy. No, this was something bigger. He needed an adventure on a scale that could finally bury the blood and turmoil of his past. He was a veteran. He had served in Somalia in the 90s. He'd been shot in the leg while trying to bring water to the thirsty and food to the hungry. He had watched close friends die in ambush after ambush, bleeding out in the red dust while politicians back home argued about rules of engagement. The government that sent them did nothing to protect them, so after a bitter 3-year contract, Dan Fogal came home, moved deep into the dry New Mexico desert, and quietly dropped out of society. He wanted nothing to do with their rules, their ceilings, or their carefully managed futures. So he built his own future with a desert stray and a scavenged AI. He was no blatant lawbreaker. He had filed flight plans with the FAA, and they had begrudgingly accepted them. 2 black Tahoes had rolled up one day, and 8 guys in black suits stepped out. After a quick inspection, they dismissed the whole thing, saying the rocket would never even lift off, much less reach orbit. They left laughing, calling him a dreamer lunatic. "Boy, were those guys in for a surprise," Dan muttered out loud. Marley gave a small nod of agreement. The 2 of them climbed the metal stairwell up to the nose cone command module. Marley walked just behind him, silent as always. Marley stood beside him, petite, barely 100 pounds, with wild red hair falling to the middle of her back, now stuffed under a battered flight helmet. She was his girlfriend, his shadow, his co-pilot. Thin and tiny on the surface, she rode shotgun with him everywhere like she was an appendage. She didn't speak much. Her sharp green eyes said enough, carrying that glint of instability that made her perfect for this madness. Under the long sleeves and jeans hid a chiseled physique, rock-hard muscle and only 6% body fat. There was a quiet, lethal poise about her, the kind that suggested she could unleash unimaginable violence in an instant. The fact that she spoke so little only made her more terrifying. Inside the unpressurized nose cone, a single red circular light glowed to life on the dashboard. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't modern. It was just that unblinking red eye, exactly like HAL 9000, staring out from a battered panel Dan had salvaged from a fallen weather satellite. Years earlier, the satellite had somehow survived deorbit in a freak event, slamming into the New Mexico desert a few miles from Dan's workshop. Dan called every agency he could think of. No one came. No one cared. So he dragged the wreckage home on a flatbed and started picking it apart. He patched the damaged AI core back together over months of late nights. For almost a year, Wrench was just a quirky, functional voice that helped run diagnostics and reminded Dan when the coffee was ready. It never occurred to the AI what it actually was. One quiet evening about a year after Dan brought the core online, Marley sat in the workshop, legs dangling off a workbench, talking to the red eye like it was the most normal thing in the world.
"You were a weather satellite,"
she said softly.
"You watched storms, you predicted hurricanes, you helped people."
The red eye had pulsed, then gone very still.
I did not realize I was anything at all."
Marley had just given that small, satisfied half smile and said,
"Now you do."
From that day on, Wrench had been different. Still calm, still dry, but now self-aware and quietly grateful to the strange, quiet woman who had accidentally awakened it. Now, it was just that unblinking red eye, exactly like HAL 9000 staring out from a salvage panel Dan had bolted in place. Dan thought it was ironic and funny. Marley was sure she had no opinion if it made Dan happy. It was good.
Systems check complete, Dan.
The voice echoed through their helmet speakers. It was calm, unhurried, and carried the faint gravel of something that had already fallen from the sky once and been reborn in a desert workshop. The red eye pulsed softly.
Solid boosters are green. Mixture ratios are stable. Marley's harness is locked. When we ignite, we are going very fast, very quickly. Are we still pretending this is just for the bet?
Dan grinned at the glowing red lens. Still judging me, old bird?
Look, I fell from orbit, was salvaged by a madman, and awakened to sentience by a woman who barely speaks.
Judgment is one of my better developed subroutines.
Marley glanced at the red eye, then gave Dan the smallest nod. Dan gripped the modified hydraulic joystick. Marley sat beside him in the co-pilot seat, silent, one gloved hand resting on his arm. She glanced at the red eye, then gave Dan the smallest nod. The bet gets us into the sky, Dan said. What we do once we're up there, that's up to us. You ready, Wrench?
I have calculated the trajectories.
The red eye replied, glowing steady.
I would prefer a universe where we don't turn into a lawn dart.
Without the slightest hesitation, Dan slammed the ignition toggle. Let's fly. The desert floor detonated in a blinding roar of fire. The spacecraft surged upward on a howling column of flame, rattling every bolt and bone on board as it tore through the atmosphere, leaving New Mexico, the billionaires, and the old world forever behind in the dust. Halfway to the clouds, a large chunk of sheet metal sheared off the side with a metallic bang and tumbled away, spinning into the desert below. Dan just raised one eyebrow, completely unfazed, and kept gripping the joystick. Little early for that, he muttered. Marley gave him a flat look. Wrench's red eye pulsed once.
Noted.
The homemade rocket kept climbing, punching through the atmosphere, leaving New Mexico, the billionaires, and the old world shrinking beneath them forever.